Good morning, everybody. It's January. It is already January, guys, and let me tell you something interesting. Outside of being January, this is actually going to be the first day of school for many of us who are fathers who have those little ones. So it's a beautiful day. It is Motivation Monday. And I'm your boy, your men's life coach, Rolando. And I'm very, very excited to be here with you once again to facilitate a conversation about men's mental health. Because right here at xyspark, our goal and our aim is to normalize conversations about men's mental health. Why, guys? Because we know that mental health is not a myth, and none of us as men are immune to being impacted by mental health. So today being Motivation Monday, we want to talk about why do men ignore their mental health. I want to say a special shout out to all those who continue to be a part of our conversation. Right now, as we are here, we are live on YouTube. We are also live on the podcast that you can find at xyspark.podbean.com. And if you are here, we just want you to look for the podcast and follow, like, subscribe, listen to more episodes like these that specifically speaks about men's mental health and sends forth what I would say, guys, some useful tips about things that we can do as men to address our mental health. For those who join us live on TikTok, we appreciate you. I want to say a shout out to, I see 22 Love, I see Transfer, I see, what's the name? Chicken, I see Richard. Hey guys, shout out to you. Where are you joining us from? Right now, I'm here, I'm in Alberta. The temperature is about minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm not sure where the temperature is where you are, but guys, just type in the chat where you're joining us from. Just want to send a shout out to you and want to say I hope that today, guys, you are open to having healthy but yet tough conversations about your mental health. Why, guys? Because mental health is one of those things that is really in crisis. Men's mental health is in crisis. That's the reality. We don't want to admit it, we don't want to accept it, but all the signs are there that points to that big reality that as men, our mental health is in crisis. But why do men ignore their mental health? What's causing us as men to ignore our mental health? I see a question in the chat on TikTok. Thank you. Somebody asked, how do men improve their mental health spiritually and mentally? And thank you for that question. What a beautiful question. So let's jump right into it. And we want to start with this question: how do men improve their mental health spiritually and mentally? Now, one of the thing about it is this, guys, is that not many of us as men want to talk about anything that has to do with spirituality, because spirituality is scary for most men, or for a lot of men. They consider the term or the expression itself. There are some men who connect spirituality with religion. And guys, let's just straight out there that we're not talking about religion. We're talking about improving your spiritual well-being. Which means, guys, and let me talk about the spiritual piece right away. you know let's move it into this. Spirituality has to do with your moral compass. So what are the moral standards that you live your life by? Because you see, guys, sometimes if as men we don't have any moral standards, then we won't have any spiritual standards, right? So improving your mental health spiritually means having a moral compass whereby you will live your life. So there are certain things that for a fact that as a man, it's not morally correct. and so you do not engage into it, because the more time you spend engaging in immoral acts is the easier it becomes, until gradually you start living that lifestyle, you start living that lie, and your mental health is deteriorating, and you're not acknowledging it or recognizing it, because you have normalized those behaviors as of compromising your morality. All right, that's one. How do men improve their mental health? That's a spiritual. How do men improve their mental health now, guys? And the other part of the question was physically, right? How do you improve your mental health physically? Now, guys, all of us as men, we have got to be mindful of this big reality, that because your mental health is your responsibility, there are some physical requirements, some physical things that you need to pay attention to. For example, how much sleep are you getting? Are you that guy that's staying up every night, all night till in the wee hours of the morning, and you're trying to function on, say, 4 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep? If you're struggling, if you're having sleep apnea, my recommendation would be go talk with a doctor, go to a sleep clinic, but get that addressed, because when your sleep is not well, your mental health cannot be well. That's a big reality. And guys, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to play around them. There's no easier, calm, or sweet, gentle way to say it. If you're sleep deprived, then your mental health is in crisis, and you have got to do the work to address that. So, if you want to improve your mental health in those areas, you may need to go talk to a professional. You need to connect with somebody who's going to help you to work on improvement of sleep, right? You know what the experts have said, and this research came out some time ago, is some of the things that you're going to need to do improve sleep is turn your phone off and put it away at least 30 minutes before you go to bed. So at least 30 minutes before you go to bed, guys, turn your phone off, put it away. At least 30 minutes before you go to bed, turn off the television and put it away. Get your mind in the right space where your body is being prepared for sleep. So to improve your physical well-being, mental well-being as well as physically, means you want to start paying some attention to even, your bedtime routine, so that you can improve sleep. So I hope I addressed your question. If you have any more questions, please type it in the chat. Welcome to those who are joining us live on TikTok. We appreciate you. We value your presence. And if you have a question, please type it in the chat. Let us continue these conversations, guys, because as your men's coach, I tell you guys, my passion is to create a safe space for men to address their mental health. Let's talk about it right here. Ask a question right here. Like, the goal, guys, is to seek to create a safe space for more men to address and pay attention to their mental health. So why do men ignore their mental health? Well, one of the things I want to put out there is, a lot of us as men, we ignore our mental health because we are not willing to admit that it exists, right? That's big point number one. Many of us as men, we ignore our mental health because we have refused to admit that mental health exists. We believe that we're immune to it. So we are not willing to admit that, hey, is there such a thing as mental health? Guys, as men, if we are going to improve our mental health, we have to be willing to admit that it does exist. It's not a myth. It's not a figment of our imagination. If we're going to grow, if we're going to heal, if our lives are going to be changed, we have to sit back and acknowledge the reality that mental health does not only affect my neighbor, mental health doesn't only affect my friend, mental health doesn't only affect everybody else, but mental health can and will affect me. So we have to pay attention to our mental health. I want to take the time to reset the room, to send a shout out to all those who are joining us live here on TikTok. We appreciate you. I'm your boy, your men's life coach Rolando. This is the XY Spark podcast, the podcast for men. Okay, and this is where we normalize conversation. Another question we have in the chat is, can food improve mental health? And I want to say, in response to that question, I want to say yes in a thousand ways. Here's why I say yes to that question. Guys, you are what you eat. All right, we are what we eat. And if we as men, if we have no schedule, if we eat at any time of day or night, if we eat too close to bedtime, then we are making preparation to have a nice one pack. Yes, guys, I said it, right? If our tummies are extremely high, then it impacts our confidence. All right. If we're not looking good, we're not feeling good. And if as men we're not feeling good, then mentally we're not going to be confident, we're not going to be motivated, we're not going to be, driven as we once were. So yes, what we eat does impact our mental health negatively or positively. So we want to look at being mindful about how we eat and what we eat and when we eat, right? What the research is saying, or what they're saying is, it's very important for us to try to not be eating a meal too close to bedtime. So what they say is, the rule of thumb is, at least 2 hours before bedtime is when we should have our last meal. All right, if you do feel like you want to have something before that, drink water. They say maybe drink a glass of milk, but don't be going to eat heavy meals and then you go to bed right away. Now, I'm aware that some of the guys that I have, some of my viewers, you may work on shift, you may work in the oil sands, you may get home late at night, you may be saying, Rolando, I have to eat. But I just want you to be mindful about one thing, that, hey, it is better you eat your heavier meal in the morning and eat something lighter in the evening so that you can get better sleep. All right. Another thing that we want to throw out there is, what the research is saying is that when you eat too close to bed and when you go to bed and you're sleeping at night, they say sometimes what research have found is that our stomachs sometimes is older than us, because why? When we're sleeping, our stomach is working to digest the food. So guys, sometimes when we do that, sometimes when we eat too close to bedtime, when we get up in the morning, we feel exhausted, we feel overwhelmed, we're not motivated. Sometimes that's because while we're sleeping, our stomach is working. And when we get up in the morning, we feel so overwhelmed, we feel so exhausted. So does that affect our mental health? 100%. It does. So what we have to do is we have to create a more disciplined routine, right? That's what we're going to need to do. Create a more disciplined routine as men where we are taking care of ourselves. You see, guys, I want to tell you this. Let me throw this out there. It is not your partner's responsibility to take care of you. All right. So I want to say to the ladies, don't don't let your men, and men, I'm saying this to you, don't let your men, ladies, whoever you are with, let you feel that it's your responsibility to take care of them. You never got married to a child. You got married to an adult. You got married to a man, right? And if you are a man, and guys, I'm going to tell you right here, right now, it's time for you to man up and stop making your woman think that is their responsibility to take care of you. No, you should take care of yourself. Go to the doctor and get a checkup, right? Go talk to a professional if you're struggling with your mental health, right? Take regular showers. Go to the barber and get your hair cut, cut your beard, right? Pay attention to your hygiene. That's not your woman's responsibility. That's your responsibility. And guys, you have to take ownership of that. The reality is that all of these things add up to building our confidence and making us more grounded. So pay attention to your mental health, guys. Why do men ignore their mental health? The other song, number two, in many cultures, if a man admits that he needs mental health support, he's seen as weak. He's seen as a misfit. He's not seen or perceived as man enough because he's a quote unquote man. So he shouldn't be struggling with his mental health. So a lot of men ignore their mental health because culturally acknowledging it is going to make him appear to be lesser than a man, right? And sometimes, guys, acknowledging that becomes so challenging. Let me give you an example. A lot of guys who you're a sporting enthusiast. You may play soccer, you may play, basketball, right? You may be a professional athlete, and you're hanging out with other men who are not even open to having conversations about their mental health. You may even have a coach. You may even have a mentor who they themselves are struggling with their mental health, but they will not say it because they'll be judged harshly. And that is point number three. Why men ignore their mental health. Sometimes the environment in which we are a part of, the community that we're a part of, does not make room for those conversations. And guys, for example, let me throw this out there. How many professional athletes, how many big teams? I don't know. I don't. How many big teams? The Toronto Raptors, the Lakers. We talk about the Real Madrid soccer team. So we just talk about basketball, not talking about soccer, right? How many of these big known teams, the Manchester Cities, the Manchester Uniteds, right? How many basketballers, the Cleveland Cavaliers and all that, how many of these teams actually create a space to say, guys, today is Mental Health Awareness Day. Let's talk about it. And when this happens in that environment, how many of the men feel safe to acknowledge that they're struggling with their mental health? So I'm saying from a professional level, there needs to be more room and more time made for men to talk about their mental health. All right. It does not make you a worse athlete. It does not make you a weak CEO. And I'm talking to some of these big Fortune 500 corporations, right? The Suncors, the Syncruits. All right. We're talking about all these giant companies who are who have spread their wings right across different geographical locations that has thousands of employees. All right. How many of these giant companies are making room for men to talk about their mental health? I'm saying to you guys, if you're an engineer and you work in a team, if you are a heavy equipment operator and you work in a team, if you are a power engineer, if you are a contractor, if you're a construction worker, you have to seek now to make not let other men feel uncomfortable because they are mentioning their mental health. Okay. One other question here, and I say thank you for all the question. I see the questions coming in. Res, appreciate it. It says, what about the decisions us men make decline our mental health or improve our mental health? Great question. So it says the decisions that men make, it decline our mental health or improve our mental health. It's always going to be because here's the thing. And respond to your question. A lot of us as men, we listen more to our egos. That's one of the big things that we have to learn to get over. So, why do men ignore their mental health oftentimes? Is because we are feeding ego. We listen to ego, right? Guys, there's a big difference between ego and humility. All right. Ego is that voice in our head that tells us, don't do it. You'll be judged. What will people say? How will this look? You people will, and you start creating all these scenarios in your head, and so you ignore to pay attention to your mental health. That ego. But humility will challenge you to be able to say, hey, wait a minute here, things are not going right, right? And so humility will help you as a man to say, hey, I'm okay to be vulnerable. I'm okay to reach out. I'm okay to speak out. I'm okay to humble myself and talk with somebody, because guys, ego is the one of those pieces that if we're not sure, ego has its place. But when ego is preventing you and preventing me from stepping out of my comfort zone to work on myself, then it becomes an issue. So the decisions that men make decline our mental health, um, and it can improve it. So we have to remember this, guys, that as men, that one of the greatest gifts that we have at our fingertips is the gift of choice. So every single day, we make that decision. We choose whether or not we are going to pay attention to our mental health or no. We choose whether or not we're going to do something about it or no. We choose whether we're going to listen to our internal critique and listen to the criticism of society and listen to the false perception of culture and community, or we can choose to take the lead on it and say, hey, I am going to do something about my mental health. Because, guys, your mental health is your responsibility. And you have got to take the initiative to do the work. You've got to choose to do the work. You've got to prioritize doing the work. You've got to step out of that comfort zone of of false belief, that comfort zone that of self-harming and self-hurting, that comfort zone that has been sort of presented to you like a scroll handed down from a supreme being. You've got to step out of that and recognize that, hey, I have to stop ignoring my mental health. That's what I'm challenging you to do right now. You are a man, I'm not sure, you may be in your teens, you may be in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s. I don't even care what age group you're in. I'm saying that you have to break the stamina of the stigma about men's mental health, and you have to do it right now, because mindset makes a man or breaks a man. And if you want to improve your mental health, you have to stop ignoring it and talk about it. You've got to start taking, the bull by the horn, so to speak, and recognize it as something that is in need of urgent attention. So, why do men ignore their mental health? Those are some of the main things why men ignore their mental health, right? Number one, men ignore their mental health because they prefer to stay in denial that it exists. Number two, men ignore their mental health because the fear of being judged. Number three, men ignore their mental health because sometimes the environment in which they spend most of their time do not make any room to have conversations about their mental health. Point number four is this: a lot of us as men, we're in relationships with other people who do not make it look safe to speak about or mental health. For example, I've had stories of men who say, hey, Rolando, I can't be vulnerable in my relationship with my partner because they will think I'm weak. Yes, guys, I heard things like that. And when I heard it, I'm saying, here is a prime example of someone who they themselves were probably exposed to a false idea about a man who struggles with his mental health. And so they, in turn, they continue to do what? To promote this idea. So here's a guy who is in a relationship, and he fears if he acknowledges that his mental health is out of sync, his partner is going to see him as weak. She's going to see him as, hey, you're not good enough to be with a person like me. So he suffers in silence. Are you in a relationship like that where you're suffering in silence? What if I were to appeal to you to say, hey, guess what? You can break that cycle right now. Guys, this may sound tough to say, But it's better for you to be not be in a relationship where your mental health is okay than for you to be in a relationship where you are afraid to talk about your mental health. Because, guys, if you're in a relationship and you can't talk about your mental health, then this relationship is not a safe space for you, right? This relationship is not a healthy space for you. And you want to see to be in a relationship where there's a healthy space where you can talk about your mental health with your partner. Now, guys, here's a clincher. You also, as a man, you have got to move away from this idea where you're blaming your partner for your mental health. Guys, we have to stop that. If your mental health is not in a good place, then you have to take the lead and do the work that's necessary in order for your mental health to improve. And so, what does that look like? That's going to look like, some of that is going to look like, talking to somebody, right? Getting out of that comfort zone and make it happen. All right. Can stress make your mental health worse? 100%, guys. That's not, that is not even, and thank you for the question. Keep the questions coming, guys. Thank you so much. Keep the questions coming, keep those hearts coming, keep those likes coming, subscribe. Can stress make your mental health worse? 100% it can. One of the things that as men, and I want to speak to this a little bit, one of the things that a lot of us as men have done, and we are good at, is we have a high stress tolerance. A lot of us as men, that's how we were cultured. We have a high stress tolerance. So oftentimes when we are stressed, we don't even recognize it. We're not even acknowledging it. And the symptoms of stress, they come in so many different ways. Sometimes, guys, it's because you're stressed why you are not sleeping well. Sometimes it's because you're stressed why you're feeling all different physiological symptoms, right? Pains in your back, pain in your neck, pain in your knees, pain in your shoulders, having headaches, right? Feeling tightness in your shoulders. All of those things, guys, are symptoms of a man who is stressed, right? You're on a short fuse. All these are signs of a man that is stressed. And if you are overwhelmed and you're stressed, then you want to start practicing or observing better stress management, right? It is hard for a man who is overwhelmed and stressed out. It's hard for his mental health to not be impacted, right? Because the mind, the body, it's all connected. So that stress that you're feeling in your body, it trickles down, it spreads out, and impacts several different areas of your life. So yes, stress does cause a man's mental health to be in a deteriorating state. So, guys, do not ignore your mental health. Mental health is not a myth. And I want to continue to encourage you guys to do not ignore your mental health. Men, don't ignore your mental health. For the women who are here, if you notice that your partner's mental health is out of sync, I want to challenge you, ladies, to create a space for him to talk about it. And if he's ignoring it, let him know that, hey, I know and I see that you are not doing okay, and I want to support you, but I need you to trust me so we can do it together. I'm saying this to you, ladies, because that's love, right? And guys, I want you to, talk with your partner and say, hey, I worry about you not making this space safe for me to talk about my mental health, because if I need mental health support, it doesn't make me love you any less. It doesn't make me a weak man. It doesn't make me a man that's unworthy to be with you, right? I need to be a healthy man so I can be a healthy partner. So, guys, have these conversations with your partners. Ladies, allow the men to have these conversations, and don't judge your man because he is seeking mental health support. A man who is willing to come out and seek mental health support, it's not a weak man, it's a strong man. That's the kind of man, ladies, that you want to be with, because he's not suffering in silence. He's not bottling things up where one day he blows his top and end up harming you. You see, ladies, if you're creating those spaces for men to talk about their mental health. And men, if you are not even able to talk about that in your relationship, then get out and go find somebody and somewhere to talk about it. But we want to stop some of these intimate partner violence that we're seeing escalating in our community. We want to stop some of these murder suicides that we're seeing in our community. We want to seek to save a father. We want to seek to save, a brother. We want to seek to save a grandfather. We want to seek to save the life of a mom. We want to seek to save more lives and have healthier communities. But it has to start, men, with you and with me paying attention to our mental health and getting the support that's needed to address our mental health. Guys, just resetting, we want you guys to know that this is your boy, your men's life coach, Rolando. You're in tune to XY the podcast for men. We are here weekday mornings from 5:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time to 6 a.m. or a little bit after 6 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are live right now on YouTube. We're also live on TikTok. You can follow us. You can join our conversation. You can type a question in the chat. We offer live coaching calls as live coaching right here on the live. So if you have a question, please, if you'd like to join the conversation, please, you're welcome to do so. You can also subscribe to our podcast at xyspark.podbean.com. And we are here just to say this is a safe space for men to talk about their mental health. There's no judgment here, there is just that encouragement and that motivation to say, hey, guys, let's do something different. Why? Because mental health is not a myth. We're almost at the end of our podcast today. I want to say thank you for all those who stayed with us from the very beginning until now. Thank you for those who gave us gifts this morning on TikTok. Thank you for those who asked questions this morning on TikTok. Please keep those questions coming. And if you have more questions, please, you can email us, right? You can follow us. Okay, we're on Instagram, we're on, Facebook, we're on we're on most of the major platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, you'll find us, and you can find our podcast on Spotify, on Amazon, right there. Okay, you are more than welcome. Thank you for he says giving me some info about mental health. Thank you for your questions this morning, and we appreciate your presence. In the meantime, guys, this is your boy, your men's life coach, Rolando, your host on the XY Spark podcast, the podcast for men. As you go there, I want you to remember this, guys, that personal development is not an event, it's a lifestyle. And we encourage you to continue to engage in this lifestyle. Make this a routine that you're committed to so that you can become the best version of yourself. And please remember this, that at XY Spark, we believe that there is a spark in you, and you guys have an amazing day. And we will see you again tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Peace out.